Hope you're well. Hope you're well. Hope you're swell. Hope you're wavy. Hope you're gravy. Oh man, I just came back from helping. So my mom moved premises. She went from her old premises to the new one. And I was helping. Okay, I was helping them move everything, and it was work. I tried to worm my way out of it. I tried my best to worm my way out of it. I couldn't, so I had to help. At first I was trying to be this virtuous gent, like, oh no, I can't be at home while everyone else is working. I need to contribute. I got there and started doing the heavy lifting. I was like, fuck this, I need to get out of here. So yeah, on Monday they're resuming. I'm not showing up on Monday. There's no way. I've done my part. It's just these big men to help carry things around. Why am I? Well, what is this? No. But yeah, it was a lot, dude. But at least I can say I helped to some extent. I helped a lot. I was lifting and I was doing a lot. My legs are sore because you lift with your legs. You don't lift with your back or anything like that. So it's my legs that are sore. I'm gonna feel it tomorrow, probably. Tomorrow's gonna be interesting. But yeah, anyway, I make music, by the way. I'm doing a song a day challenge where the goal is to drop a song a day until the end of the year. 7 songs every Friday, 7 songs. So link in description if you want to check that stuff out. Today is Saturday, which means it's Bible study day. You know how we do. I've been reading my Bible a lot lately, which I'm proud of. It's been a daily thing now. I use the Bible app and I just do daily. There's a plan that I'm doing, a 19-day plan. I'm on day 12. I think I'm on day 12. It's going well. I've been feeling good, man. Like, I love what I'm reading. I'm learning a lot about the Bible. Just certain things, details I wasn't aware of. So cool. Such a cool book. So intricate. So layered. Just when you think you have it figured out, you realize it's going to take a lifetime to feel like you have it figured out. There are a lot of... I don't think it's possible to ever get to that point. It's so much symbolism and hidden meanings, and it's just layered. So yeah, anyway, we've been going through the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel, story of David. Yeah, it's been interesting. The last chapter, sorry, anyway, the last chapter, David spared Saul's life. Saul was in a cave taking a dump, and David was there with these men, and David's men were like, get it, and David wanted to snuck up on him. It's like, I'm not gonna do this, so he just cut off a piece of his robe and snuck back. And then as Saul was leaving, David was like, yo, bro. And then Saul was like, David. And then David was like, wait. Because Saul's trying to kill David. Saul's been trying to kill David this entire time. So he's shocked to see David there. And David was like, wait, look, I have a piece of your robe. If I wanted to kill you, I would have. So don't you think this thing of you trying to kill me is kind of messed up? Because I've done nothing wrong, Saul. I've done nothing wrong. Anyway, so now they make up. So now we're in chapter 25. It's titled David, Nabal, and Abigail. It's okay. So then Samuel died, and the Israelites gathered together and lamented for him and buried him at his home in Ramah. And David arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. The notes say, this great man who was dedicated to the Lord and served him from his youngest days was now dead. As godly as he was, it did not save him from an earthly death because he was still a descendant of Adam. But God's work in Israel did not end when Samuel died. God's work never is dependent on only one man. If it is written, then Samuel died, it is also written, and David rose. God's work may begin with a man, but it never ends with one man. God continues and sustains his work as he pleases. It says Samuel seemed to be unappreciated by Israel during his life. Yeah, they treated this guy like a whore. But at least he was honored in his death. Samuel's heritage lived on in a remarkable way. First Chronicles chapter 9 suggests he organized the Levites in the service of the sanctuary, which was completed by David and Solomon. First Chronicles chapter 26 verse 27 to 28 says Samuel began collecting treasures for building the temple in Solomon's day. Okay, there's a bunch of stuff. Them commemorating Samuel in all sorts of nice ways. So we continue with the chapter now. Now there was a man in Maon whose business was in Carmel, and the man was very rich. He had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. The name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife was Abigail, and she was a woman of good understanding and beautiful appearance. But the man was harsh and evil in his doings. He was of the house of Caleb. So he had a nice wife, but he wasn't appreciating her. Boo, boo. So the notes say the first thing we learn about this man, Nabal, is where he lived, and that he was a very rich man. There are 4 kinds of riches. There are riches in what you have, riches in what you do, riches in what you know, and riches in what you are, aka riches of character. Nabal was a very rich man, but only rich in what he had. He had the lowest kind of riches. That's deep. So he had the lowest kind of riches. He wasn't rich in character. He wasn't rich in knowledge. He wasn't rich in his actions. He was just rich in his possessions. So he wasn't a very rich man after all. He's just rich in the very materialistic sense. With regards to him shearing sheep, it says this was the harvest time for a sheep rancher, because it was a season of ingathering. Sheep shearing was a time of lavish hospitality towards others. The name of the man, it's quoting here, the name of the man was Nabal. This is another indication of his low character because the name Nabal means fool, Joe. In ancient Israel, names are often connected with a person's character. We don't know if Nabal was given this name or he earned it, but he certainly lived up to it. The fact that he is of the house of Caleb may also be an unflattering description of Nabal because Caleb means dog, and to be of the house of a dog was no compliment. As the word Caleb signifies that's an extra commentary. It's like a quote. Nabal's wife was both beautiful and wise in contrast to Nabal himself. The Bible gives Abigail great praise when it says she was of beautiful appearance, because the only other women who have this Hebrew phrase applied to them are Rachel and Esther. I want to see what they look like, just because it says beautiful appearance, so I'm assuming they were baddies. So it's like, I'm interested. It says, how did a woman like this ever get matched up with a man like Nabal? We can understand it in that day of arranged marriages. But there are many Abigails today who are in that place, not because the marriage was arranged, but because they chose it. Is it the money? Yeah, it's saying here, if you're one of these girls that gets into these relationships, the Bible is very firm and clear on divorce. So it's like these women might want to try and divorce. It says here that maybe you're in that situation so that you can be humbled. You made that choice, so like live with it. And maybe you can also then teach this man good things by conducting yourself in a way that he can admire you for, and then that can might inspire something in him to be like, that's something I want to live up to. Like I want to start to emulate some of her characteristics because she's such a patient, kind, humble spirit. Maybe I can learn from her. Because yeah, there are a lot of women that are with guys that are, why are you with him? He's ugly, he's weird, he's rude. The only thing about him that's actually good is he has a lot of money. Says don't get divorced. You're in it, bro. You're in it. You're in it. Divorce. Yeah, I've shared my opinion on divorce several times. There are instances where I think divorce, like obviously, like you have no choice. Like your kids are at risk. Your own life is at risk. Maybe the other partner wants a divorce and you can't talk them out of it. But generally speaking, divorce, no. Marriage is meant to be permanent. That's the whole point. You literally say, till death do us part. So your words are supposed to mean something. You're supposed to take your oaths seriously. If you make an oath in front of your family, your friend, a priest, God, you should take that oath seriously. But we're clowns these days. We say things and then go back on our word like nothing happened. Yeah, divorce not good, generally speaking. Hold on, I need to check on my food. I ordered food. Okay. So we continue the chapter. When David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep, David sent 10 young men, and David said to the young men, "Go up to Carmel, go to Nabal, and greet him in my name. And thus you shall say to him who lives in prosperity, Peace be to you, peace to your house, and peace to all that you have. Now I've heard that you have shearers. Your shepherds were with us, and we did not hurt them, nor was there anything missing from them all. Nor was there anything missing from them all the while they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore, let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we come on a feast day. Please give whatever comes to your hand to your servants and to your son David." So when David's young men came, they spoke to Nabal according to all these words in the name of David, and waited. So the notes say, David made this request because he performed a valuable service for Nabal, protecting his flocks when Philistine raids were common. To our modern ears, it might sound like David ran some kind of protection racket, but that wasn't the case at all. He performed a worthy, valuable service for Nabal and expected to be compensated. So basically, he wasn't like saying like, pay me because I was standing around your sheep. No, it's like those genuine threats of what was it? Philistines coming and killing his sheep, taking his sheep. Like that was a real threat back in the day. So like David and his men had protected his sheep. So he was like to Nabal, I just did this thing. I protected your sheep. I'm thinking maybe I can get something in return. Like, let me know, bro. Let me know what you're saying. So the notes say, with regards to Nabal shearing his sheep, it says, this means David waited until the right time to ask for compensation for his services. David protected Nabal's shepherds and flocks for a long time, but did not expect to be compensated until Nabal himself made his money at the harvest of sheep shearing. With regards to David sending 10 young men, it says, this shows that David made the request politely. He did it through messengers, so Nabal would not be intimidated. He sent the messengers with a greeting full of warmth and kindness. Peace be to you, so Nabal would not give out of fear or intimidation. So when you send 10 young men, that can be intimidating though, right? You just need 10 niggas to show up. No, but I get I guess the gesture, these are cultural things as well. We have to understand like different cultures are different. If, from my perspective, if 10 dudes show up to my house, like, yo, bro, give me his money, I might be a bit intimidated. But yeah, I think culturally, the context does matter, and they are coming with kindness, saying peace be to you, and da 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 da. The greeting was also very polite. Um, so yeah, with regards to him saying your shepherds were with us, nothing was missing. It says this shows that David made the request properly, carefully, and patiently, giving Nabal an itemized receipt for services rendered. So you're saying to Nabal, like, ask your young men and they'll tell you, like, I protected your sheep. So it says with regards to him saying, for we come on a feast day, it says, David politely reminded Nabal of the traditions of generosity surrounding harvest and sheep shearing time. With regards to him saying, please give whatever comes to your hand, David did not demand any specific payment from Nabal or set a price. He simply left it up to Nabal's generosity. Then David's messengers waited for the reply. So we continue with the chapter. Then Nabal answered David's servants and said, who is David and who is the son of Jesse? There are many servants nowadays who break away, each one from his master. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my meat that I have killed for my shearers and give it to men when I do not know where they are from? So David's young men turned on their heels and went back, and they came and told him all these words. The notes say it can't be that Nabal did not know who David was, because David was famous throughout all Israel. Nabal said this as a direct insult to David, knowing who he was but refusing to recognize him. Our modern way of speaking, Nabal said, who does he think he is? Who's this guy? Who's this guy? Yeah, Nabal is a fool. Nabal deepened his insult, saying that David was simply a rebellious servant. This was completely false because David had continually, though not perfectly, conducted himself wisely when attacked by Saul. Nabal showed what an ungenerous man he was. He looked at everything as his instead of the Lord's. True and biblical generosity doesn't think, this is mine and I'll share it with you. It thinks, all that I have belongs to the Lord, so you can have some of it also. Do people really think that way, though? Like, let's be honest. I don't think people actually think that way. Like, everything. Look, I think we are supposed to think that way, but I think naturally people do have attachments to their possessions. Maybe we should work on that. Maybe it is possible to get to a point where you genuinely view all your possessions as the Lord's and you give freely, knowing that it all belongs to God and God can give you more. So just be generous. I think that's a good way of viewing things, for sure. But realistically, I don't know if even the best of us think that way. I don't know. But it is something to aspire to, for sure. The chapter continues. Then David said to his men, every man gird on his sword. So every man girded on his sword, and David also girded on his sword. What's David about to do? What's this guy about to do? And about 400 men went with David, and 200 stayed with the supplies. Damn. David received Nabal's response exactly the way, this is the notes, exactly the way Nabal intended it to be received, as a great insult. But Nabal is not dealing with a weak, no-account man. David was a great soldier and warrior. In our modern way of speaking, David would have said to his men, lock and load. In a Western movie, he would have said, mount up, boys. David was ready to fight. Mount up, boys. Do they speak like that in Westerns? Lock and load as well is a bit sus. In our modern way of speaking, who speaks like lock and load? Who wrote this? Okay. This is not a high moment for David. He doesn't respond the way the Lord would have him respond to an insult or even to an attack. Yeah, this is a bit excessive. God would have us bear insults with love and kindness, returning their evil with our good. This is high ground to walk on, but it is commanded by Jesus. Whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. Now, here's where I feel like there's some subjective interpretations of the word, especially of that scripture. There are instances where in this specific instance with David, I do think rallying up your men with swords to go and attack Nabal because he refused to give you some of his sheep, I do think that's excessive. You don't need to do that. They are his sheep. Like if he doesn't want to give you, you don't have. He doesn't have to. He didn't ask you to protect his sheep. You did it out of your own kindness. So he is an asshole. But this thing of like this view of Christians that would just turn the other cheek, I do think context matters. Like you are allowed to defend yourself. It is important to sometimes assert yourself so that people know that you're not to be messed with. And sometimes it's important, just to send a message, dude. But yeah, context does matter. Like I generally speaking, I don't think it's good to be violent and aggressive and all these different things. Like I remember reading about this particular scripture. Whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. Like there was another perspective on that in which someone applied a certain context to it that made more sense, but I can't remember, so I can't really say anything useful right now. But yeah, I don't know. David didn't show Nabal the same kindness and long suffering that he showed to Saul. In just the previous chapter, David spared Saul's life, and Saul not only insulted David, but also actually attacked him and tried to kill him. David was able to be kind and long-suffering to Saul, but it seems to have been harder to do it towards someone he perceived as his equal or lower than himself. Often this is a true measure of our character, not how we treat our superiors, but how we treat our equals or those beneath us in some way or another. David is not coming to Nabal just to make a statement, but to wipe him out. That is why he arms himself and his men, and why he left some men behind to watch the stuff and serve as reinforcements. Let me continue with the chapter. Now one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, "Look, David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master, and he reviled them. But the men were very good to us, and we were not hurt, nor did we miss anything as long as we accompanied them when we were in the fields. They were a wall to us by both night and day, all the time we were with them, keeping the sheep. Now therefore, no one consider what you will do, for harm is determined against our master and against all his household, for he is such a scoundrel that one cannot speak to him." They called him a scoundrel. So they're making a plea to Abigail. They're saying, "Speak to your, like, please help us, Abigail. Your husband's a scoundrel. He's a fool. David's men were just so nice to us, and this guy was mean to them. And now these men are coming to wipe us all out. Please do something, Abigail. Do something." Okay, the chapter continues. Then Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 sheep already dressed, 5 seahs of roasted grain, 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs, and loaded them on the donkeys. And she said to her servants, "Go on before me. See, I am coming after you." But she did not tell her husband Nabal. So it was, as she rode on the donkey, that she went down under cover of the hill, and there were David and his men coming toward her, and she met them. With regards to her taking the bread and the loaves, it says in the notes, Abigail did what Nabal should have done, but didn't do. The fact that Abigail was able to gather so much food so quickly shows how wealthy Nabal was. If this much food was on hand, it makes Nabal's ungenerous reply to David all the worse. Yeah, this guy was greedy, dude. He had all this, like these men are taking care of your sheep. And David's like, "Pay me what you want to pay me, bro. Please, like, whatever you think is right, you give me that." This guy was so wealthy, it would not have taken much for him just to be like, "Here's some food, here's a sheep or two, maybe like a couple sheep, because it's like 400 men, or how many men? It was a lot. So give them enough just to satisfy them. He's rich, he can afford it. What's wrong? It's something for something." Would you have rather the Philistines came and pillaged you? Would that have been preferable? Yeah, this guy was a greedy bastard. Anyway, the chapter continues. Now David had said, surely in vain I have protected all that this fellow has in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that belongs to him. And he has repaid me evil for good. Hold on. My food arrived. Let me wrap this up so I can eat. Where was I? And he has repaid me evil for good. May God do so and more also to the enemies of David, if I leave one male of all who belong to him by morning light. Damn. David's being serious. So the notes say David had the facts straight, but not his heart. This made David's intention clear. He planned to massacre Nabal and all the males of his household. This was the expected reaction. But God called David to go further than the world expected. Yeah, I think it was a bit dramatic of a response, honestly. So the chapter continues. Now when Abigail saw David, she dismounted quickly from the donkey, fell on her face before David, and bowed down to the ground. So she fell at his feet and said, on me, my lord, on me let this iniquity be. Please let your maidservant speak in your ears and hear the words of your maidservant. Please let not my lord regard this scoundrel Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But I, your maidservant, she's throwing her husband under the bus, dude. Fuck that guy. But I, your maidservant, did not see the young men of my lord whom you sent. Now therefore, my lord, as the Lord lives and as your soul lives, since the Lord has held you back from coming to bloodshed and from avenging yourself with your own hand, now then, let your enemies and those who seek harm for my lord be as Nabal. And now this present which your maidservant has brought to my lord, let it be given to the young men who follow my lord. Please forgive the trespass of your maidservant, for the Lord will certainly make for my lord an enduring house, because my lord fights the battles of the Lord, and evil is not found in you throughout your days. Yet a man has risen to pursue you and seek your life, but the life of my lord shall be bound in the bundle of the living with the Lord your God. Shall be bound in the bundle of the living with the Lord your God, and the lives of your enemies he shall sling out as from the pocket of a sling. And it shall come to pass, when the Lord has done for my Lord according to all the good that he has spoken concerning you, and has appointed you ruler over Israel, that this will be no grief to you. She's really stroking this guy's ego. No offense of heart to my Lord, either that you have shed blood without cause, or that my Lord has avenged himself. But when the Lord has dealt well with my Lord, then remember your maidservant. It says in the notes, in his angry, agitated state, something unexpected made David and his whole company come to an immediate stop. A great procession of gifts, and at the head of that procession, a beautiful woman bowing down before David. This had to make a startling impression on David. Yeah, he saw a baddie and was like, wait. Like, I would do the exact same thing, honestly. If I'm pissed and I'm going out to massacre a group of people, and then just a baddie just appears on a hilltop, like carrying bread and sheep and wine. Guys, hear me out. I know we said we're gonna kill this guy, but I'm gonna hear this woman out. She has something to say. It's logical. I understand, David. I understand. It says in the notes, Abigail took the blame because she knew that David would punish her differently than he might punish her husband, Nabal. Yeah, she was very humble in her approach. She bowed, she took all the blame, she asked permission to speak and so on. She was very humble, unlike Nabal, like just the opposite of Nabal. She was asking for forgiveness. And yeah, she was just saying all this nice stuff about him. Even like stroking his ego, because like making him sound like this man of a high character, even though he's literally going to go kill her husband because the husband didn't want to give her sheep and bread and you know. But she's like she's just like humbling herself in this moment. And yeah, she also asked him not to not do something that he'd later regret. She's saying like if you do this, you're gonna regret it. It's not good. Don't kill this guy. He's a fool. Don't kill him and sully your own name. Good advice, Abigail. She sounds like a catch, man. She sounds amazing. She's fire. She's smart. She's humble. My God. With regards to some of the things she did wrong, she did all this. The notes say she did all this without her husband's counsel or approval. Yeah, at the end of the day, he is her husband. I understand he's a fool, and she's just an idiot. But like, she's also like bad mouthing him in front of David, and she's just going behind his back and doing all this stuff. Like that, you married him, and you made the choice to marry him. He's your husband, for better or worse. Like you know, the notes say no wife should ever speak this way of her husband, and no husband should speak this way of his wife. Facts. Like if that's the person you married, fam, you gotta honor your decision. You made that choice. It says she almost suggested to David that he kill the guilty Nabal, but that he spare the rest of the household because they were innocent. It says, let your enemies and those who seek harm for my Lord be as Nabal, but don't shed blood without cause. It says, yeah, that's crazy. It says she made herself available for David's future consideration, perhaps in an inappropriate way. When the Lord has dealt well with my Lord, then remember your maidservant. So she's saying, when God blesses you, remember me. Remember me. Yeah, dude, I'll be honest, man. If a baddie comes up to me and she's being all humble and like, it's just she's just making good impression on me. It's hard to resist. But she is married, and yeah, no. That's not good. It's not good. It says Abigail was not outstandingly submissive or respectful to her husband above. Though there is no explanation in the Bible, perhaps it was justified because this was a legitimate life or death situation. If Abigail didn't do what she did, then Nabal and scores of innocent men would die. But the point of the passage is how submissive and respectful Abigail is towards David, not Nabal. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, it was life or death. David was intent on massacring that entire family. So you could argue she did what she had to do, but at the same time, I don't know. Some of the stuff was unnecessary, like bad mouthing her husband, but he's also a fool. Like, oh, like it's tough, man. You have to be careful who you marry, people, because marriage comes with obligations. Like that's why it's not a joke. Don't just get married for vibes. Like understand what marriage is. It comes with a lot. There's certain expectations that come with being married to someone. It says Abigail's appeal to David was so glorious because it lifted him up instead of beating him down. So this is with regards to him saying, "Don't kill innocent people for no reason. You're above this. You're God's elected. Like, there's a better way for you to do this. So it says it lifted him up instead of beating him down. David was clearly in the wrong, and Abigail wanted to guide him into the right. But she didn't do it by being negative, by emphasizing to David how wrong and angry and stupid he was, though in fact he was. Instead, Abigail emphasized David's glorious calling and destiny and the general integrity of his life, and simply asked him to consider if his present course of action was consistent with that destiny and integrity. It says many Christian wives have the idea of silent submission. They say, I know my husband is wrong, but I won't tell him. Submission means I should shut up. That is wrong, and they should look to Abigail as an example. Other Christian wives have the idea of sharply speaking submission. They say, I know my husband is wrong, and God has appointed me to tell him, and boy will I. That is wrong, and they should look to Abigail as an example. Abigail gives the right example. Submission that speaks, but speaks sweetly instead of sharply. Yeah, like you can point at someone's wrong without being an asshole. I think that's how you boil it down. You can tell someone this is not good without being like mean about it or degrading. Okay. It says Abigail's submission to Nabal was not outstanding, but her submission to David was, and David's submission to the Lord was equally outstanding. By giving up the fight, he had to trust God to take care of Nabal. Yeah, I would have left that from the beginning. I would have been like, God will deal with this rat. I think that would have been the right thing to do. So the chapter continues. Then David said to Abigail, Blessed is the Lord God of Israel, who sent you this day to meet me. And blessed is your advice, and blessed are you, because you have kept me this day from coming to bloodshed, and from avenging myself with my own hand. For indeed, as the Lord God of Israel lives, who has kept me back from hurting you, unless you had hurried and come to meet me, surely by morning light, no males would have been left to Nabal. Damn, David. This guy was going to kill them. So David received from her hand what she had brought him, and said to her, Go up in peace to your house. See, I have heeded your voice and respected your person. The notes say David is being taught a good lesson. Our hurt feelings never justify disobedience. When others sin against us, we may feel justified in sinning against them, but we are never justified by our hurt feelings. So it says David can also thank God because Abigail successfully reminded him of his destiny to reign over Israel in righteousness and integrity. If David had slaughtered Nabal and his household, it would forever be a black mark against David among Israelites. They would forever wonder if they can really trust him. It might also seal his doom before Saul, because for the first time David would have given Saul a legitimate reason to hunt him down as a criminal. The notes say that David was man enough and wise enough to take counsel from a woman. He knew that the issue wasn't Abigail's gender, but that God used her at that time and place. David did well both to receive her advice and to praise her for her boldness in bringing it. It is important to remember that Abigail did not come to David empty-handed. One reason her appeal was effective was that she paid David what was owed to him. When David received it from Abigail, he acknowledged that Nabal had paid the bill and there was nothing outstanding. Here David knew the blessing of being kept from sin. It surely is a blessing to be forgiven our sins, but it is an even greater blessing to be kept from sin. The chapter continues. Now Abigail went to Nabal, and there he was, holding a feast in his house, like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunk. Therefore she told him nothing, little or much, until morning light. So it was in the morning, when the wine had gone from Nabal, and his wife had told him these things, that his heart died within him, and he became like a stone. Then it happened, after about 10 days, that the Lord struck Nabal, and he died. The notes say Nabal lived up to his name. He was a fool. His life was in imminent danger. His wife knew it. All his servants knew it, but he didn't know it. He eats and gets drunk as if all are fine, and he didn't have a care in the world. In this regard, Nabal is a picture of the sinner who goes on rejecting God without regard to God's coming judgment. David certainly would have killed Nabal, and it is certain that God will judge the sinner who continues to reject him. All Nabal had to do was invite David to this tremendous feast, and Nabal's life would have been spared. Nabal's own greed and foolishness was his undoing. Abigail's wise action was save Nabal from David and save David from himself, but it could not save Nabal from God's judgment. Nabal was never out of God's reach, and when it was the right time, God took care of him. The chapter continues. So when David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, Blessed be the Lord who has pleaded the cause of my reproach from the hand of Nabal, and has kept his servant from evil. For the Lord has returned the wickedness of Nabal on his own head. And David sent and proposed to Abigail to take her as his wife. When the servants of David had come to Abigail at Carmel, they spoke to her, saying, David sent us to you to ask you to become his wife. Then she arose, bowed her face to the earth, and said, Here is your maidservant, a servant to wash the feet of the servants of my lord. So Abigail rose in haste and rode on a donkey, attended by 5 of her maidens, and she followed the messengers of David and became his wife. David also took Ahinoam of Jezreel, and so both of them were his wives. Okay. That's where he fucked up. That's where he went. So he meets this thing. He meets Abigail. He meets this wonderful woman, Abigail. He also has another wife, by the way, back in Israel, or back in Judah. What's her name again? Saul's daughter? I forgot her name, whatever her name is. Michal? I think her name is Michal. And he meets Abigail, marries Abigail. I understand Abigail. But then who's this Ahinoam? Like, well, who is she? This guy. But Saul had given Michal, his daughter, David's wife, to Palti, the son of Laish, who was from Galim. So Saul had taken Michal and given him to someone else. Well, this is a mess. The notes say, with regards to David proposing and marrying Abigail, it says, was this inappropriate? Wasn't David already married to Saul's daughter Michal? The writer of 1 Samuel explains that this time David was not married to Michal because Saul had taken her away and given her to another man to spite David. So Abigail is not really David's second wife. She's his first wife. Okay. He should have ended there. He should have stopped there. Though Abigail was David's second marriage with Ahinoam, David took a second wife and will add many more wives. Was this inappropriate? It wasn't a direct sin because God hadn't commanded against it, but it did go against God's ideal, his plan for oneness in a marriage relationship. David was a man of great passions, and this contributed to his marriages to many wives. But because David never really followed God's plan and purpose for marriage, his family life was never blessed and peaceful. Family trouble brought David some of the greatest trials of his life. Yeah, that's sad. Yeah, you quickly learn the drama David gets into because of women. Because this guy was not disciplined in that realm, he got into a lot of trouble. Anyway, it's time for me to eat. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something from this. You know, I like to pray at the end of my videos just to impart blessing and peace and all that good stuff. So, dear Father God, thank you for this individual watching this. Thank you for making them whole and unique. Thank you that you're guiding them on a good path towards righteousness and peace, happiness. Thank you that you're making them humble. Bless them with a humble spirit so that they can conduct themselves appropriately around people and incur people's favor and kindness. Just help them have a humble perspective on life and to be generous, to be kind and peaceful. And I pray that many blessings follow them as a result of that, Lord. Bless them for that. Bless them with good health, long life, and happiness, and the same for their friends and family. In my name I pray. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen, amen, amen. I'll see you in the next video.